I completely eliminated alcohol for a full year after spending the majority of my life drinking almost every single weekend, and the results weren't what I expected. However, before I get into it, I want to make it clear that this video is for recreational drinkers that are interested in exploring their relationship with it. It's not for alcoholics, it's not for addicts. I would hate for anything that I say in this video to break someone's sobriety if they're in active recovery from addiction. I've got a couple of incredible friends that have completely eliminated alcohol, and I would never want for them to drink again. So this video is definitely for non-alcoholics that are just interested in alcohol. Now come with me till I tell you a story, because before I even tell you why I cut out alcohol in the first place, you need to understand a bit about my early years. Where I'm from in Ireland, there's a massive drinking culture. People start drinking at a very young age. I got my first carry-out, which is basically the name we give to going and getting a bag full of alcohol, when I was 13 years old. And from that day forward, my full life started to revolve around drinking. I absolutely loved it. I would go down to the park every Saturday at about 2 p.m. I would get a carry-out, I would get a packet of cigarettes, I would drink from 2 until about 8 or 9, and then I would sober myself up and I would go home. I would have never considered myself a problem child, but every single week, without fail, I would drink alcohol. I loved the feeling that it gave me, I loved the confidence that it gave me, and I was confused as to why anyone wouldn't want to drink alcohol. I boxed and was sporty my full life growing up, but alcohol consumption, smoking cigarettes, smoking weed, definitely took over. There's no mad, troubled upbringing, there's no sob story. I simply really enjoyed how alcohol made me feel. I would say in my younger years, drinking wasn't really that much of a problem. I done it almost every single weekend, but I still went to school, I still got into university, I boxed at quite a high level. It wasn't until I got to the age of about 17 or 18 that drink started to merge with substance abuse, and once per week started to turn into multiple times per week, and still doing sports eventually turned into doing absolutely nothing at all apart from drinking, smoking and taking drugs. To cut a long story short, I absolutely annihilated my mental health with a combination of alcohol, drugs, partying, and just not being very good to myself. And this was over a period of a couple of years while I was at university. And then one day at the end of 2019, I decided enough was enough. I completely eliminated drugs. I started working on myself. I started getting back into fitness, and by May 2020, I had transformed my body. I'd got myself back into a great spot, and I had just started my first ever fitness page, which was actually on this YouTube channel. And from there, I started to make a lot of progress in all areas of my life. I still drank on occasion, but I didn't take drugs anymore, and I had a newfound optimism for life. The period of darkness and poor mental health was completely over, and I was back doing something that I actually loved. However, there was only one issue. Anytime I drank alcohol now, I was blacking out, like every single time without fail. And it's because I was chasing the feeling that I used to get through drugs from alcohol, which was impossible. So I just kept drinking and never getting there, and then waking up the next morning and remembering nothing. This went on for years, and I wasn't drinking every weekend anymore. But when I did go out, it would always fill me with anxiety and fear and memory loss, and I would be waking up to people texting me, saying, oh, you did this, or sending me photos. And then one day, at the end of 2022, I woke up with an awful hangover. I went for a walk with my mum, and I said to her, I think I'm going to commit to a full year without alcohol. At the time, I was just about to get on a flight and go to Australia for a few months, and I decided to do the full thing sober. Now, the expectation with cutting out alcohol is that I would stop drinking and everything else would continue as normal. I'd still go to all the same nights out, I would enjoy myself just as much, and I would unlock this new superpower and level of confidence that would just make me feel like I was high on life all of the time. But unfortunately, it didn't quite work out like that. But firstly, I think it's important to highlight that I originally committed to cutting out alcohol for a full year, and I ended up doing almost 500 days without any alcohol, and it is one of the best things that I ever done. It gave me a newfound confidence. It allowed me to progress in my business and with my online presence and ways that would have never been possible. It allowed me to learn to speak, communicate, and go to events that I previously would have relied on alcohol for. All of the benefits were hard work. I had to go to things that I felt nervous going to without a drink. I had to put myself out there. I had to work and graft on the days where I wasn't spending it hungover, but they were very worthwhile long-term gratification benefits. When you cut out alcohol, there's less big highs and big lows. When you drink, you're on a massive high, and the next day, the low is incredible. However, when you cut out alcohol, it looks more like this. You don't get surges of happiness or highness all of a sudden. You don't feel like you're high on life. In fact, the majority of the time, you just feel normal, but normal is good. I feel like a lot of people, when they talk about cutting out alcohol, they make it out like they're just supercharged all the time and they have this amazing feeling. You literally don't feel any different at all, apart from you don't have the fear, you don't have hangovers, you're more productive because you're not spending days in bed, and you have less anxiety because you're not worried about what you said to people when you're on the drink. Everything that you say and every conversation that you have is the real you, it's not the drunk you. As a whole, cutting out alcohol enabled me to progress massively with my business. I built Glean App, relaunched the Social Circle, launched a new recipe ebook, and grew about 1 million followers in a single year because I was just on the grind. It gave me a new sense of confidence and ability to talk to people without relying on alcohol. It removed a lot of my anxieties and worries, and there was much less massive highs and massive lows. But I didn't feel like I was Superman. I didn't feel these incredible benefits that a lot of people say. The best way I can summarize it is I just felt normal the majority of the time. Now, this is the part of the video that I need to be very careful about, because I'm going to talk about the disadvantages that I experienced personally from eliminating alcohol. And I feel like a lot of people don't want to talk about this because they just want to say everyone should cut out alcohol, there's only advantages, you're never going to regret doing it, which is true. You're never going to regret a period of sobriety, but there is certain things that come with sobriety that I would say are not good crack. Firstly, let's not pretend that alcohol doesn't make some situations more enjoyable or more fun. I think it's silly to pretend that it doesn't. If I go on a night out and I'm with a lot of new people that I haven't met before, they're all drinking, having a laugh. When you go on the drink with new people, you can build a much deeper connection with them much faster compared to when you're sober. And a lot of people say, oh, you can do that when you're sober, you just need to know the right things to say, etc. You can, and that's completely true, but most of the fast connections that I've made with people, most of the funniest stories, most of the stuff that I look back on with fond memories, a lot of the time it includes alcohol. And again, I want to make it clear, this isn't a pro-alcohol video, this is just my honest take on things. My funniest memories, the stories that I tell all the time, the laughs that I have with people. Of course there's lots that don't include alcohol, and if they all include alcohol, there's something wrong. But the bottom line is, a lot of them simply do start with a drink. On top of that, alcohol gives you a complete switch off from your day-to-day life. And this is not necessarily an advantage, it can be a major disadvantage, but the bottom line is, it's true. If I have a lot on with work or I'm stressed about certain things, when you go out and you have a few beers, it takes your mind off it completely. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, some people can start to heavily rely on alcohol to escape from their problems, and then it becomes a major issue. But the odd time, once a month, once every couple of months, if I am stressed with work, I really miss the option of just going out for a night on the beer, not worrying about anything, and then almost using that as a reset just to get straight back to it. When I done the almost 500 days of sobriety, there was no escape from stress. There was no switch off a lot of the time. Sometimes I would watch my friends going out to different things, and I knew that I just wouldn't enjoy that environment if I wasn't drinking, but I wasn't, so I didn't go. But I knew that I would like to go, and I would have liked to have the option of having a drink, and it would have helped me switch off, have a good night, have a bit of a reset, and then just get straight back to it. And finally, I just miss the feeling of pre-drinks. Tunes are on, you know that you're having a few beers, you're going to go on a night out, and it's just this full excitement around it. I've grew up my full life drinking. A lot of the stuff that I done was based around drinking, and I really enjoyed elements of that. So I came to the conclusion after doing almost 500 days that I would take a drink again. However, there was some rules on me drinking. I said if I ever found myself out of control or blackout drunk again, I would completely eliminate alcohol. If the cons of alcohol started to outweigh the pros of alcohol, I would completely eliminate it. And as a whole, if my drinking became problematic, I would never drink again. Since then, it's been over 2 years since I've reintroduced alcohol. I've been able to have it in moderation. I haven't been blacking out because I've done the deep work and I realized that I used to chase a high from drugs that I wasn't going to get from alcohol. And doing almost 500 days off it allowed me to get really used to being sober. So really hyper aware of when I'm under the influence of alcohol. So it allowed me to savor it more. It allowed me to realize when I am actually drunk and know my limits. So I felt like the period of sobriety was one of the best things that I ever done. It completely reset my relationship with alcohol. It allowed me to enjoy it again in moderation, and it allowed me to actually appreciate it. Again, this video is for recreational drinkers. It's not for people that have a problem. If you are an alcoholic or an addict and you have cut out alcohol, I think that you're an inspiration. I think that you should continue to stay off alcohol 100%. However, if you're a non-alcoholic and you're maybe curious about going sober, or you've been sober for a while and you're curious about drinking again, hopefully this video will give you a bit of an insight. I think that it's a worthy thing to do for every single person, just to try it and see how you get on. Some people will never drink again. Sometimes you realize you enjoy having a drink. It's quite a nuanced one. It's person dependent, but this is my personal experience. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm interested to have conversations. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'm trying to get this YouTube channel kick-started again after 4 years basically of not posting. Most of the videos will be about fitness, weight loss, different challenges, but the odd one is about mental health, alcohol consumption, and different topics that I find interesting. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.